watching teams who really have no chance of winning the
You
pennant
you
or
miss
being even
baseball.
close.
Yeah. Do you have baseball cards? You probably have baseball cards.
Well, yeah,
You do.
I did. now he's really. You do.
Oh, I regret asking the question.
Yeah,
And
I
here
have
we
other.
are.
I have
Other.
candy at my place.
God. And on that note, the 26th of April, 2020, a bit of a gray day, but still we
My
can.
lighting is awful. I look as if I've there. That's a little
Yeah,
better.
that's better. Yeah, okay.
Makeup. Dear
Oh,
God in
my.
heaven.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm just fine. I got some
Sort of a
stuff for
Sunday
you.
morning, but not a very good one.
It's no, it's grayish, but you can smell spring a coming. And I finished
Yeah.
my herb garden work yesterday, and I put the
Did you
chicken wire
have
on
you
top of there.
have you a photograph?
I'll have a photograph for you tomorrow.
Okay.
And I've
I
got.
can just see this wrecked 47
Can you,
Dodge
can you
Hulks.
can you put more staples in it?
No. I've put enough. I've put enough.
Sure, I'll give
staples.
you more.
This. Oh boy.
Oh God, I hope you're recording this, or I hope you're not. I don't know.
We are recording. We're off and running here. Yes, we yeah.
You missed
Got a
a
couple
spot.
Oh God, does she stand right behind you
Oh
while
no!
you're?
Oh yeah, there's other stuff too. It said, "Boy, that bread didn't rise very well, does it?" It just doesn't stop. I'll show you my
Well,
sourdough
I'm
in a minute.
64 years old. Give me a
I
break.
I
I'll
got
get my bread to
I got
rise.
bread to show you, but why don't you go first? Because if I get started on my bread, it won't end.
Okay, we have resolved our share screening
Good,
problem
excellent.
from yesterday.
And you got that all figured out. I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay. And I would like to start with what are we doing here?
Hydro Quebec.
Here we go. Hydro-Quebec.
Yep.
Yes, the premier mentioned it, and Hydro itself sent out a note that there are a couple of frauds that people are trying to perpetrate by telephone.
Yes. Yep.
One is telling people that if they don't pay their bill immediately, they will be cut off from service. It is a feint in order to get your credit card number. Hydro-Quebec says they never they don't make phone calls like this, but they are not cutting off service during the pandemic at all. And also, they do not have people pay by credit card.
No.
So there's one. The second one is a job offer. And this is a feint in order to get personal information of a financial nature, your SIN number. Don't give anybody your SIN number.
Ever.
Please don't
hang up
not
the
even
phone
him.
and tell them to go to hell in both languages before you hang up the phone.
Yeah, exactly. So Hydro-Quebec is mentioning that, and Hydro is also saying that late fees will not be charged during the pandemic. So kudos to Hydro.
Absolutely. They're doing a great job, as are our municipal folks and everybody else.
Yeah, I get regular online reports from my town, from City Hall, once every 3 or 4 days about what's going on. And
we get a message from the mayor, a video message from the mayor and everything. So things are just
goodness.
chugging along. Yep.
So there you are. Good for you, Hydro-Quebec. Please do not ever give out your credit card number over the phone, and don't give any personal information to somebody who says they're from Hydro. No good. Not good, bad. This is just a lovely picture. I thought,
the clock tower.
Sunrises in Montreal, you want to share it. It is by a young Radio-Canada cameraman who is also a fine young photographer, obviously. His name is Simon Marc Charon, and he works often out with a camera with our lovely Anna Asimakopoulos.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, Simon Marc took this picture of the famous harbor clock with the biosphere in the background, sunrise not too long ago, and I just thought it'd be a nice picture too.
Some of us old enough to remember when that was the the Pavilion of the United States of America.
Yes, indeed. Buckminster Fuller, the Biodome. I'm really not sure what's going on with it now during
Oh,
COVID-19.
it's
I'm
shut
not sure what's
down
going
until
on.
next year, I think, or something like that.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, remember they had a fire there
Yes.
at one time, and I remember going through it. It had escalators. It was all quite.
It's quite something.
Yeah, very
Yep.
futuristic for
Yep.
its time. That and the Soviet Unions were pretty special ones. The one from Ontario also had and they had a great theme song.
A place
which
to
was kind of-
stand, a place to grow, Ontario.
Give us back our garbage can.
Shut up, shut the fuck up.
Well, it was kind of catchy in '67, and everybody was optimistic. So the tone was exactly right. I'm looking for a place in the backyard to store some stuff.
Okay. What
I
would that?
figure these
What would
days,
that be, though? What is it you're storing? Not sure.
I don't
Okay.
know yet.
All right.
I'm not.
Just-
I'm weighing all my options.
You
but
just like the
oil is
idea
coming.
of the barrels just being
Yeah.
ready for stuff.
I feel like Jed Clampett right now. I was
Dryer
shooting-
sheets. Dry.
Yeah.
You can start hoarding dryer sheets.
I feel like Jed Clampett. I was shooting at some food, and black crude came up
Bubbling up. There you go.
They don't have any place to put the stuff.
No.
West Texas, I think, is still below the water line. I'm not sure. It's
Not
less
sure.
than zero a barrel. And I thought, what the hell? This is an opportunity for me to make a killing, right? Why should everyone else?
That's right.
Have
The
all
garage is full. The garage is just full. Move it over on the. Yeah.
What's this in the second bathroom? So I thought, what the hell? I'll do this. So that's
All right.
that.
Good.
The nude selfie
Oh.
is becoming quite popular. I don't know if you've heard of this. There are people
No.
who are using the COVID-19 for lascivious and indeed nefarious reasons. Apparently, pedophiles are working.
Oh, okay. You just
because
ruined this entire effect for me right now.
Okay, well, this is just a little caveat because the kids are on computers more. So,
Right.
mom and dad, be careful. But the nude selfie. It's one example was a young woman who met. She was traveling in Europe, and she met a fellow traveler, both American kids. She got back to wherever she lived in the States, and the relationship was starting to move, but he didn't get back, so she hasn't been able to see him. So she sent him some nude selfies, and it's a kind of a cute attempt. I find it kind of sweet. It's kind of a cute attempt at an intimacy we can't have because of COVID-19.
But
So
it's
the nude selfie
very dangerous.
yeah, there are. Oh no, but they are done through email, and not. You don't just put them up online or anything.
No, I understand that, but again,
Yes.
there's been much discussion about should the relationship go awry, and then all sorts of things can go wrong there too.
I agree, but everybody's trying to cope in their own way.
And whom might this be?
Oh, that was me about 25 years.
Oh, that was you.
Yeah,
I see. Okay,
yeah,
good.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
so
I've
I
sort
was
of,
right. It's because I
I've
was
gone
reading your
downhill.
bio notes from the CBC, and he says he was born Marie Louise McDonald in Varennes. God.
I was an alto. So
But,
there we are. You're
very-
right. I'm not
Very
I'm not
becoming-
trying to be
very
flip about something
zoftig.
that could everything is fraught with danger. But I found it just an interesting talking point with you, and I just wanted to
Thank
show
you.
some old
Come
high
here.
school pictures of me.
Okay, come here, big boy.
Heidi
Foss.
Future. Heidi, I gather you've talked to Heidi as well.
I have not. I befriended her. I've known Heidi. Well, my goodness, we go back many years to the original Just for Laughs, as we were discussing with Andy Nelman the other day. I'm a big fan of Heidi's. She posts a lot of stuff on her page too. So if you want to chuckle, you can. But she's a very skilled writer and performer, and you have obtained her permission and her participation. So we'll be talking to her soon.
I'm really looking forward to it. She's got a kind of a deadpan Stephen Wright delivery, right?
Absolutely.
And it is a howl. She's just I don't know how well we can ask her that. I don't know how she holds it together with the deadpan and the screamingly funny droll stuff. Anyway, Heidi will be a guest soon,
Good.
as will this young man, Terrence Bowman.
Terrence.
And Terry was with Radio Free Vestibule, which was on CBC Radio for a number of years. Very good writer, performer as well, actor. He's been doing acting work, voiceover work, and he's got a virtual show coming up actually next week on the 29th, which would be what, Wednesday? And he will be a guest of ours sometime next week.
You're on fire. Excellent.
There we go. Yeah.
Very nice. Now,
Uh-oh. A hat.
no,
That's
it is
bread.
It is a sourdough loaf that didn't quite rise enough, and
Oh, boy,
see?
it made a hell of a clank when you tried to pick it
it was
up.
just it's out of the oven in about 10 minutes. Now, some people are just discovering baking, but I've been baking on and off for years. I love bread. I could eat only bread for the rest of my life, and this is a sourdough. It's has a nice crust to it, but it should have risen higher anyway. It's an experiment, and I continue to experiment with it.
And, are you going to eat it or use it? Oh,
yes. No. I always eat my mistakes, as it were. I baked 2 loaves today. They're both kind of flat. But if you are interested, there is a plethora of information online.
Oh,
and
that
you
is
can
gorgeous.
now look at this. This is a guy who writes a website called The Perfect Loaf, based in, I think he's in New Mexico. And
Why is sourdough so popular? I like it, but
again, I love it. I absolutely adore it. And you can make your own starter simply by combining flour and water. And there are all kinds of instructions online. Or you can purchase a dehydrated starter, which is what I did. I'm just curious to see what other types of starters taste like. This is from a site called Crux Fibers. This is a woman by the name of Brittany. I'm not sure what her family name is, but she does knitting and various things, and she also does bread on the side. And you can order this online. It's a few dollars for delivery, and you receive this packet of dehydrated culture, which you then rehydrate per her instructions, and then use it to make your levain, your starter. Then you start. See, the challenge now is to get bread to rise like this simply on sourdough starter and not using commercial yeast. Some people use both in their recipes. I don't. I try to go pure, and it's always
what, is it just more healthful or what?
Oh, no. It's a different taste altogether, and it's always a bit of a crapshoot. So I'm still working on it. So there you go.
Crux Fibers, is this Canadian?
It is. She's in the Yukon Territory. Yeah.
Oh,
and okay. It'll take a few days to reach you, but it comes. She'll ship it to you in an envelope, and then with a list of instructions on how to rehydrate it.
But that little thing there is the start of something big.
Is something quite spectacular. Of course, this is what a loaf should look like when it comes out of the oven, about almost twice, if not 3 times as high as my.
My God, that's a piece of art.
It is. It's beautiful, and I use the Dutch oven baking method. I have a cast iron Dutch oven, which you preheat for a good hour at a very high temperature. Then you drop your dough in there, and then, but still, it's like you flying a plane. It's like, get up, get out up.
Oh yeah,
come on up here. It's just not going up nearly enough.
Yeah, this is there a lot of cleaning up of that kitchen afterwards?
No, not so much. Because I consume so much bread that I chop it. I cut it up, put it in the freezer, and it's breakfast for the next couple of weeks.
How do you remain so svelte? Bread is
anger.
I mean,
anger
it'll
keeps me.
What's
anger keeps my brain heated, and it just chews up all of the carbs. So.
Now, do you refrigerate, freeze some? Like, would you cut that?
Freeze. I will freeze. I will cut it and freeze it later today, and then I simply take it out a few slices at a time for my breakfast in the morning. And nothing better than a good sourdough slice, I tell you.
Put some jam on it.
Butter. I'm a peanut butter. I'm a nut butter fan.
Oh, right.
Okay. You probably saw this. This was on or about the 20th of April. This was in the aftermath of Nova Scotia. And this is a pilot, a guy by the name of Dimitri Neonakis, who flew out of Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. And he simply went aloft and flew this heart-shaped pattern just out of his own volition, just as a sort of a reminder of how we all need to stick together in difficult times. And the air traffic controller noticed this and sent him a little note, and then it kind of went out from there and became viral, as it were. And
What a beautiful gesture.
and somebody picked up on it online, and so they saw this happening, and it's been talked about quite a bit now in the last few days. So that was a nice. And Neonakis, again, Dimitri, his first name. I believe he operates a flight school, but he also takes care of kids with special needs and takes them aloft and all sorts of things. So he's
What
people.
a beautiful, and
Yeah.
and of course that is just about part of the horrible trail that was led.
Yeah, it's just it's quite.
Those
I found
awful
it quite
nights last
touching,
weekend.
and the CBC did a piece on it. You can find out more about it online. So as touching as that was, this one was a funny one. There's a nurse in Boston wanted to, in the wake of the Boston Marathon bombing that took place a few years ago, wanted to do her own sort of statement. So she ran along the streets of Boston to spell out the letters Boston Strong, but she misspelled her run, so it came out Boston Strog. So this has been
the beautiful Back Bay area.
Yeah,
it's lovely.
so this has been making the headlines too, but of course people are quite fond of her as well for that gesture, and so Boston Strog has become a bit of a hashtag.
When did she do this? Earlier this week?
Let's see. This was published about a day ago. I'm not quite sure what the date is on Business
well,
Insider.
God love her. What a nice gesture.
Boston Strog. So, and we were talking about talking horses yesterday. And this brings me to the piece that I did many years ago in the townships where they were doing a plowing competition. And my God, this has got to be nearly 30 years ago. And I met so many nice people down there, and I realized as well, and over the years, how much of a pain in the ass I was to work with, because I would get there with a blank sheet in my brain with no idea about what I was going to do. And all of a sudden I'd see something and I'd ask my camera person to run out and start taking shots. And what I saw there when I arrived were these beautiful draft horses, and they just put the, what do you call this? The tackle, I guess?
Yes, and the bit in the mouth.
The bit in the mouth.
Yeah.
So they had put the bits in the mouths of the horses, so their lips were moving, their mouths were moving. And I said, wait a minute, this is it, talking horses. So I asked the cameraman to shoot as many moving lips as he could.
Had he worked with you before? So
he had not worked with, so I did my best, he being a unilingual francophone and me trying to explain in both languages what I was going to do. So he ran around while I, like a smartass, drove the tractor and tried, and it was the same kind of plot as the one with the dressing and drag, because, smartass shows up, thinks he can do the job, and he can't.
Look at the guy behind you. It's almost the Settlemyre ad.
That's right, yeah. So I had the horses commenting on my efforts throughout. Now, when I shot this, it was silent. So I got back to the station and I thought, I have to give these horses a voice of some sort. I wasn't going to give them just a flat English voice. I wasn't going to go with the French Canadian effect either. It was too obvious. So I went for a kind of a Jackie Mason effect. And it was based on, inspired by the Billy Crystal, the old man at the casino. Does the bus leave at 5? And Jackie Mason, whom you interviewed years ago. There's Jackie. He's got to be pushing 90 now. And God, that was funny when he was on with you saying, well, it's a nice Gentile boy working in a basement or something like that.
That's right. You're a very nice boy. You work in the basement.
Work in the basement. So that was what I dubbed the horses' voices to be. It was somebody who sounds a little bit like a cross between Jackie Mason and Bernie Sanders. And at the time, one of my colleagues found this rather offensive, and she brought everyone into the editing room to watch this, and including some of our Jewish colleagues, Lynn Herzog being one of them, God bless her. What a good egg she was. She said,
Is
no,
that
don't be
Charlie
ridiculous.
Berry?
It is Charlie Berry.
God love him.
Yeah, there's Charlie Berry. And she said, oh, don't be ridiculous. You go to air with that. So it was, again, very typically CBC, very tightly wound, but it turned out to be a great piece. And this was produced by Delano Giardini, who is no longer with us. He left us several years ago. And I always think of Delano when I see this, because the cameraman had a better idea of where I was going with this than Delano did. He would look at me and shake his head and just go off and say, "What are you doing? What are you talking
My
about?"
God, and they actually let you behind the wheel. That's
Oh, they
even
left
more
me.
fun.
Oh, yes, yeah. And
Did you have fun? You like
I had a
gadgets?
great time, and she was just terrific. She sat there. She wasn't impressed with anything. She was just sitting back.
So you're doing the Ben Cartwright scene, looking out over the,
That's
and
right.
this lady's just knitting.
And
Yeah,
I sat next to her. We had a nice long chat. And my goodness, she's probably gone by now. But God, that was fun. Anyway, I'll put the link up for this because
That's adorable.
it was great fun. And I don't know how Charlie's doing these days. Have you heard from Charlie Berry at all?
Charlie died several years ago.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, his
Okay.
son Chris is program director at AD.
Oh, okay. I didn't know there was a connection there.
Yeah, Charlie ran the Sherbrooke record, of course, for years.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
The English radio station was there, which became
Yes.
CBC English in Sherbrooke. Charlie was an Eastern Townships giant.
He was
I'm not trying to be facetious.
No, he was very, very
beloved.
active. Very, very active. Oh, okay. Again, so much time has gone by since then.
Well, you're right. That's got to be 30 years ago.
Yeah. So,
and just looking out over that scenery, is there anything more beautiful?
And there's Mr. Bernie here on this is the only paper magazine I still subscribe to after about 25 years.
Is this the latest one?
Harper's, yeah. So there's Bernie.
And is there any place more beautiful on a lovely sunny day?
Big shot. Look at that. You call that plowing, so I got into trouble with it. But it was a lot of fun. I'll put the link
for everyone.
Yeah.
Oh Lordy. Well, we did. We covered the waterfront there.
I think we did. Brian A. Murphy tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, indeed. There he is.
There's Brian. Brian was
the man he does more cooking than you do.
I'm sure he does. He is a Renaissance man. He was the TV director. He directed a lot of the Newswatch newscasts, and he will recognize the following phrase: "Good evening. These cows are not going to work."
Brian was one of those guys who got into trouble all the time because, like you and me, he was willing to try anything.
Absolutely anything. And he used to. There was an old sketch on SNL years ago with Joe Piscopo. This was in the aftermath of the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan. And in this case, it was Eddie Murphy as Buckwheat, who was shot. And they kept going back and forth to the same clip over and over again. That they were making fun of ABC News. Buckwheat is dead. Let's take a look. And there's Piscopo going back to the spot. And this is what Murphy used to say in my ear every night before we'd go to air: "Buckwheat is dead. Let's take a look."
Great sense of humor, and you got to see the studio. I hope Brian wants to share the studio with us tomorrow. He's built, and of course he built everything from scratch.
Yeah, he's
everything from scratch.
No flies on Brian, so I'm looking forward to that. So,
alrighty.
À demain.
Talk to you tomorrow.
Cheers.
Good stuff.